Hey everyone, welcome back to Rich Has an Opinion. This time I have an opinion on, and this is going to get a bit spicy, because it's about racism. So a few days ago I saw an article on a, shall we say, National Broadcasting Corporation website about a medical school trying to become anti-racist. And the first thing that went through my head was, why would a medical school be anti-racist? I mean, doctors and nurses take the oath to preserve the life of everyone. So let's dig into this article. A major British medical school is leading the drive to eliminate what it calls inherent racism in the way doctors are trained in the UK. Okay, I'm up for that. Anyone, anywhere, points out a bit of racism, sexism or any otherism, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you while we say this is wrong and this is why it is wrong. But why is this wrong? So, the University of Bristol Medical School, which is who's pointing this out, says urgent action is needed to examine why teaching predominantly focuses on how illnesses affect white above all other sections of the population. Hey, yeah, you got a point there. Okay, so according to the 2011 census, just over 80% of the UK population is white, 3% is black, which leaves 17% for everyone in between. But just because the majority of the population is white doesn't mean to say the rest should be ignored. So let's go on to this. Now, this is a quote from Dr. Joseph Hartland. I don't know who Dr. Joseph Hartland is, but the fact that he's a doctor, kudos. Historically, medical education was designed and written by white middle-class men, and so there is an inherent racism in medicine that means it exists to serve white patients above all others. End quote. I'm not so sure about that, because, the Chinese were doing medicine long before we were. The Greeks were doing it as well, although I suppose they're also white. But anyway, here we go. Next part of the quote. Essentially, we are teaching students how to recognise a life or death clinical sign largely in white people, and not acknowledging these differences may be dangerous. Those signs being, when patients are short of breath, for example, students are often taught to look out for a constellation of signs, including a blue tinge to the lips or fingertips, to help judge how severely ill someone is, but these signs can look different on darker skin. Okay, two things there. You're looking out for a constellation of signs, multiple signs, including the blue tinge to the lips or the fingertips, which says yes, there is other signs you can look for. But then that got me thinking. I've done a lot of first aid courses, and I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill one-day first aid at work course. I'm talking multiple weeks first aid course, damn near equivalent to a paramedic, but also trained by the Edel Mountain Rescue. So if you've broken your arm and you've broken your leg, not only can I splint your arm and your leg, bandage it all up, I can do that whilst hanging off the side of the mountain, whilst so are you. So yeah, I'm not new to first aid. I'm not new to the medical area, but I'm not going to profess I'm a paramedic or a nurse or a doctor or anything like that. So you know what, Dr. Joseph Hartland, you're absolutely right. And whether this is a 3-year degree for a doctorate, or whether it's a one-day course for a first aid at work certificate, yes, things like this need to be taught. Now, according to Dr. Hartland, the same issues apply to training on common skin conditions like eczema, with students often going through their entire medical school education without seeing examples of how these manifest in people who do not have white skin. He has a point. It should be taught for all colours. The final part of this news article is decolonising the curriculum. Well, I'm up for decolonising anything. But there are a few things in here I do agree with, and a few things I don't. So, here we go. Asterisk by asterisk, let's get through them. First, new textbooks demonstrating clinical signs in darker skin, along with guidance that all clinical signs, where possible, are presented in both light and dark skin tones. And don't forget the skin tones in between. And while you're at it, pass it down to every first aid course there is out there. So yeah, I agree with that one. Number 2, exploring the fact that drug trials predominantly involve white male participants and looking at how this may lead to inaccurate and harmful prescribing for other patients. Okay, we have this could go one of two ways, really. First one, yes, absolutely. White male participants involved in drug trials getting a couple £100, maybe almost up to 1,000. I've heard the radio adverts for a couple weeks stay in their facility. You'll get paid this, and they pump you with these drugs and see what happens to you over a couple of weeks or a couple of days. But yeah, if the majority of the population is white, then it's going to be the majority of the population who are volunteering for these things. But then not every human body is the same. So yeah, there may well be a possibility, this is where we go on the other branch, there will be a possibility that if you are male or female, the drugs affect you differently. If you are black, Hispanic or white, the drugs affect you differently. So yeah, definitely need to look at that, because if somebody who has ABC disease comes in and the doctor sees a white male and goes, oh, you need 500 milligrams of these twice a day, but if I don't know, Chinese person comes in who's suffering from ABC disease, they may only need 400 milligram a day or 600 milligram a day. Or it might just be the fact that if you're female, then you only need 400 or you need 600 instead of the 500. But then on the flip side of it, it's the human body. The human body is the human body, and everyone can take the same amount of drugs, which I don't think they can. So yeah, I think there's actually definitely some route to go down on this one to see how it affects different people. Number 3, teaching on the history of medicine, including the exploitation of people of colour in scientific research. Okay, kind of understand this one. Definitely need to know about the history of medicine and how it's improved. And including the exploitation of people of colour in scientific research should probably something that is touched on, but not a major thing when it comes to getting your degree as a doctor. Whether you're going to be a GP, a general practitioner, whether you're going to be a surgeon, whether you're going to be a heart specialist, an eye specialist, whatever. If you go to the doctors, you want to know that doctor can sit down and confidently talk to you about what your current condition is and all the latest medicines that are available for it, or if they can give you a 3-hour lecture on how someone of your colour was exploited in the past for scientific research. I think that could be a side field, but yet something that needs to be touched on. Number 4, training on spotting unconscious bias and helping students and staff more confidently reporting and act on racism. Absolutely. Well, half of it anyway. The second half, helping students and staff more confidently report and act on racism. Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. Side by side with you, shoulder to shoulder. However, training on spotting unconscious bias. Now, the first few times I've tried to record this, and I've recorded it a few times, I tried to put in there something about unconscious bias, but I just couldn't articulate it as well as Ben Shapiro. So in the link below will be a link to Ben Shapiro's view on unconscious bias, because unconscious bias is basically, it's not a ghost, it's a ghost of a ghost of a ghost. What he means by that is basically it really doesn't exist, so we can't do anything about it. Conscious bias, yes we can, but unconscious bias, no. And point number 5 is setting up an anti-racism task force to promote an environment that actively opposes racism. Yeah, get in, do it, I'm all up for that. Absolutely, and you know what, give me a shout and I will join you in that task force. Well, if you're listening to this, then thank you very much. you're an absolute star. So please hit me a sub. And then when you think about it, I want you to either hit me a like or a dislike. I don't care which, one or the other. Whichever you hit, like, dislike, but drop in the comments why you've liked or why you've disliked. And while you're down there, drop also in the comments what else you'd like me to have an opinion of. I mean, so far I've spoke about a capitalist company that makes war game miniatures, I've spoke about buses, and now I'm on to racism. So let's face it, pretty much everything's on the table. Hey, could be canoes. You name it, I'll talk about it. And again, if you're still here, you're an absolute star. So I know I've already said it, I'm going to say it again. Drop a subscribe, and if there's anything you would like me to give an opinion on, drop it in the comments below. But once again, thank you for staying this long. My name's Rich, and this has been Rich Has an Opinion.